We begin today with the camera above the clouds, above these new dark clouds, seemingly reaching out, long purple tendril-like lightning flashing through the clouds for miles over this main central mountain way off in the distance. And the camera flies by some strange-looking birds flying away and goes nearer and nearer that mountaintop. And you see the clouds wrapped around the mountaintop, and you see a large purple glow coming from the top of the mountains. And there's some strange other looking lights all around it. And the camera begins to back away and fall through the clouds. And you see the mountain just slightly shaking and rattling as some beams of light seem to come towards the tops of the mountains. And then the camera fades through the clouds, and now you see the valley below, slightly a little darker than it would be at this time of day. And the camera turns to the fields that go on for miles, and you see a large group of landstriders running, looking like they're joining up with a smaller group of landstriders. And then the camera switches to two gelflings riding two landstriders, looking very happy with their hair blowing in the wind and big dust piles flying behind them as they're going as fast as they can. And Jibo and Vierana, you've been riding for a while now, and you see this darkness off in the mountain now clearly behind you more, and all kinds of birds and wildlife and animals are starting to join you on this run, and you see a large pack of landstriders catching up to you guys very slowly, but they're catching up. And at this point in your journey, you're starting to feel a bit hungry and tired. It looks like the tree's not too far off that you've been going towards in the distance.
I make my landstrider go into a slow trot and say, "Can we take a bit of a break? We've been riding for hours." I say.
Hey, yo! I yell at my landstrider to slow down, and I dig my heels, as I should, to slow this amazing creature down. And I come up behind V as I was kind of just following along and letting her take the lead and slowing down and catching up to V. Ooh, oh, everything all right, V? You hanging in there?
I just want to take a break. I'm so tired and I'm hungry.
And when you're saying that, and he's pulling it behind you, and the smoke is, and the dust is catching up a little bit, and you turn around, V, to look at your dad, and behind you in the distance, immediately you see the three suns in that triangular form. Now that your angle is different and they're out of the clouds, and immediately you go into another vision again of these creatures, but this time the vision is stronger, and you see the suns, and you see these creatures, and you begin to go into a vision, and the suns are around them, and then you see a whole bunch of them all of a sudden in a circle, and then you hear them talking, and then you actually, now all of a sudden you're on the ground walking up to them.
As I walk up to them, I feel a bit confused of why there are so many of them, and I just want, and all I want to do, as I'm having this vision, all I want to do is just walk towards those sticks and see what's happening.
And as you do begin to walk towards them, you feel right here on your forehead, you feel like a burning, and it feels like it's going deep into your mind. And you also feel like an itching on your back also. And these creatures, as you're walking forward, all of a sudden they all turn towards you and look at you. And in your mind, you can hear a strange language that you've never heard before. But then the words change a little bit, and they say, Vierana, come to us.
I put my hand on my forehead and start rubbing my head, trying to make the pain go away as I very slowly walk towards them.
And when you rub your hand like this and you pull your hand away, you see light on your hand that's coming from your forehead, and it's like making your hand glow. And then when you see that light on your hand, you get a bright flash. It's so bright, it's blinding you, of the three suns. And then it goes away for a second, and then all of a sudden you're now standing in the middle of these. You don't even know what they are. They're like some kind of angels, gods, maybe aliens. You have no idea. They're made of light, and they're floating all around you.
I look at the one in front of me and say to myself, am I a sun reader?
And when you do that and you ask that question, all of a sudden you can now understand what they're saying, but they're not talking. You can only understand it in your head. And they say, yes, you are the next sun reader. We are the Orskex. We are coming. And then all of a sudden the brightness of all of them like starts getting brighter and brighter and brighter. And then all of a sudden you feel like you're backing away, pulling away, and that light is just bright. And as it pulls away, that light begins to form a sun, and then the other two suns. And then as you're pulling away, you also see like some writing around the sun, but you can't tell what that writing says. It looks like symbols and some kind of cryptic language. And you're being pulled away.
I try to stop myself from being pulled away because I try to figure out what these symbols were. So I reach my hand out, trying to see if there's anything I can grab a hold of to stop being pulled back up.
And when you put your hand out and try to stop yourself, all of a sudden you feel yourself stop, and you feel yourself go like this, like jerking forward and backwards. And then all of a sudden the symbols go away, and you just see bright light. And the scene changes, and Jibo, you see Vierana, as you're catching up to her, slow down, and she turns and starts talking to you, and she's now just like staring into the sun, and you see a bright light all of a sudden flash on her forehead, and you see her have her hand out, and she seems like paralyzed for a moment, and all the birds and stuff all of a sudden start flying off, and you see her like lose her balance, and she's beginning to fall off of the Landstrider, and the Landstrider's like all clumsy under her, trying to like balance and stuff and spinning in circles. I think you're muted.
As I'm sliding in with my Landstrider, as I was catching up to her and coming into her and communicating, I want to now seeing this jump from my Landstrider, attempt to jump onto her Landstrider and try to catch her.
All right, you begin speeding over there, and just at that moment, you go for the jump. You see her not trying to catch herself; she's like stuck in that motion, but she's just starting to tip over. And go ahead and give me a dex roll with a target of a 14.
18.
You got it. Go.
Being my sweet girl in this trance-like state isn't the first time, only now, her being approximately 20 feet high and possibly falling, the adrenaline pumping through me, and this Land Strider slowing down, and my little Gelfling balance and effort just leaping off of this Land Strider onto hers. And as I catch my little V with my left arm, I grab the Land Strider with my right and kind of saddle us both in and catch her in. And V, sweet girl, are you okay? What is it?
And
And
at that,
settle the Land Strider.
and as you do that, and you get on there and you start talking V, you're in this trance and you see a light, and all of a sudden, when you were trying to stop and you put your hand out, you feel like something like warm and loving grabbing you from behind and pulling you, and then all of a sudden the light is going dark, and then you hear your father's voice, V. You're muted.
I start to blink myself back into reality and say, what happened?
And as this is happening, I'm setting the Land Strider and kind of pulling the Land Strider to the side and in so that he can lower us down. Sweet girl, it's happening again.
And as you're pulling the Land Strider around and you start to talk to her, you kind of like turn her and look, and then at that moment you see that bright light on her forehead just close up, and then it goes dark, and then you just see the line there for a second. And then the Land Strider calms itself, and then about that moment, the other Land Striders all kind of arrive in a pack around you.
And as we lower, I dismount the Land Strider, carefully holding V, and kind of lay her down and cradle her. What is it, honey? Are you okay? Talk to me.
I don't know if I'm okay, but I think I'm okay. I say as I rub my forehead.
And I grab her hand as she's rubbing her forehead. That scar on your forehead, there was a bright light coming from it a moment ago.
I told him, I know. In my, what I think, vision, it was on my hands.
Tell me about your vision.
Well, I saw multiple or skeksis, some was weird symbols. When I touched my forehead and I got this like weird light material thing on my hand and it started to glow. I saw very, very blinding bright lights, and it was just all crazy. There was different languages I didn't know. There were circles. I just don't get any of it.
And when you're saying that and you look up to your father to see his reaction, you also notice when you look up, Vierana, you see all these different birds and creatures flying in a big circle around where you guys are, and all these animals are all around. And when you look up, you see all this. It's like, I don't know, 50 to 60 different types of animals. It's almost like they're there to see you.
Papa, I need to tell you something very important. In my vision, you won't believe me, but I'm a sun reader.
A sun reader? Like Kima?
Yes, I think.
We must get to Agra. But first, we gotta rest. Please. Have some of this swamp water. Drink up. I'm gonna prepare you some food and set some things up.
I slipped down this swamp water I say, "What did you pack this for food?"
As I start going through my bag, I start pulling out some of the delicious meals I packed for us. Sweetie, I even brought a little surprise just in case you really needed a treat. Here's some glow moss. And I hand her this
And
one of her favorite little treats.
And as you're handing her the glow moss, the pouch opens up, and Fluffy jumps up on your hand and just starts ravishly trying to eat the glow moss. Just super hungry and super happy. And yeah, he's holding on your hand, just trying to eat it.
Wait! I say as I break a small piece and feed it to him. You have your own food, you know. As I try to eat my food without him trying to take it from my hand.
And as they're snacking on this as like an appetizer, I'm moving around, grabbing what I need to set up a little fire and camp for us. We've just got to get some rest and before we can make it to see Agra. Are you feeling okay?
Yes, I feel fine. I say as I look through my bag to find Fluffy seed.
And when you're doing this, you also again notice that all the birds and all the creatures, all of a sudden they start, not like in a big panic, but all of a sudden they start turning and moving away from the direction of the mountains. And you hear in the distance just a low grumbling.
I look over to my dad and say, maybe another earthquake?
And as this ground is shaking, I instinctively start making my way to be, please, honey, stay close. And I walk her back to this amazing little hut-like habitat, which for a gelfling is easy to make in these wood with leaves and bushes and trees all around. And I take her in and we set up to rest for the night after, finishing our food.
After I'm getting ready to settle in for the night, I say, oh, I forgot. I scurry through my bag, and journal what has happened. As when I was scurrying through my bag, I remembered I had my flutes.
V, would you play something for me?
Sure, I say. What song, though? There's so many different options.
Play Mama's song. And I lay myself back and settle in.
Okay, I say as I lick my lips, getting ready to play. As I'm playing,
Give me a flute check, and your target will be a 12.
trying to find my flute. 13.
Okay, as you begin to play this song that your mother wrote and taught you years ago, the suns pass again, and they start to settle behind the mountains. and all the animals and birds are now gone. Even the land striders are gone as the song's playing through the air. It's so beautiful, and you're finishing up the preparing the meal. Off in the distance, you hear a return call of the song, and you hear a low, and it's coming from not the direction that you're going towards where the tree is, but just a little more to the east.
As I continue playing, but start to step outside the little hut at the same time and peek my head out, try to see what that noise was.
And when you do come out, you look over in that direction, and then the sky is all red from the sun's going down, and way off in the distance, just like peeking through the clouds, you see like some creatures flying through the clouds coming towards you guys. Ooh, look, they look big.
I look up to the creatures and wonder my head, but still continue playing. I wonder what those things are and where they're going.
And as you continue playing, it does seem like they continue to come towards you, and they're getting slightly a little bit bigger. Still miles away, though. Still humming or singing back to you.
I continue playing, go walk over to my dad and tap him on the shoulder with my elbow and point outside. You're muted.
Huh? Oh. And I follow this cue as I was in a trance-like state myself, just loving the sound of her playing the flute. And I start like making my little way outside, hearing this return, and in that curious way following. What is
And right behind you scurries out of the little makeshift hut, scurries out Fluffy, and he jumps over next to you guys, and you guys all look up as she continues playing, and some time passes, and the night begins to fall, and now these creatures are within somewhat of eyesight, and you begin to kind of make some features out. They almost look like giant fish swimming through the air. And they continue to get closer, and at this point you can now count them, and it looks like there's 5 of them, and they're very large.
I slowly take the flute out of my mouth and say to myself, what are those?
Yeah.
Give me a lore check, Jibo. Your target will be a
14.
16. You've heard of large flying creatures like this out in these lands before, but you never thought they were true, or never paid much more attention to it than that. And when you and then in this moment too, when you stop singing the song, and she asks you that question and stuff, you now see them slow down a little bit, and they kind of spread out a little bit, and they stop singing as much.
As I'm looking at these animals flying in the sky, I'm really taking note at this point, and I'm trying to study their face, and I'm trying to get a line of sight and see if I can see the color of their eyes.
They still seem to be
flying
a little bit too far away from you to get those details.
I pick up my flute before my eyebrows awake rage and confusion and start playing the song I used to play when Fluffy couldn't sleep at night from seeing more larger animals than him.
All right, she begins playing again, and again you see the creatures again seem like they get their bearing, and now they're starting to like come down towards you guys.
I'm looking around and looking at their flight pattern and looking at their massive size. And as all this is happening, I grab V by the shoulder and I grab my chest, and I'm just feeling this horrible feeling go through me at this moment with all of this happening. And I don't know why, but this sickness within me is just clawing at me at this moment. And I fall to one knee.
I stopped.
You also notice when you feel this pain again that that itching that's on your arm feels like it's grown, like it feels like a larger rash under your clothes that you haven't taken off or changed in days. And also now you feel something on your leg also that's giving you a little bit of an itch.
And
these creatures are now getting closer.
And just feeling that, and the crawly like feeling, and the feeling like it's growing, I, with one arm, grab my shirt, pull, and with my other one, I try to slip my arm, and I slip my arm out to finally take view of this and see what this itching and crawly like feeling actually is, as I feel like this is taking me over. What is this? What is this?
When you kneel down, you kind of kneel down a little bit behind V as she's playing the flute, and you see these creatures coming in. And you look down on your arm, and you see what looks like the shadow fingers, little mushroom bumps on you that have like a black haze to them. This is the same thing that you saw on the others that didn't make it.
And I immediately try to slip my arm back in, and I really want to like push this back in. This is something that I don't want my daughter to see. And I'm on my knee.
I look.
And about that moment that you put your arm back in from examining yourself, Vierana's standing playing the flute, and now you can see these things up close. They get close. They kind of like they got up on you so quick because you were distracted by by seeing these things on your arm, and you turn up and look, and you see they look like giant, strange stingrays with multiple tails that look like almost like elephant noses, and they look very happy and cheerful. They kind of remind you of the land striders. And they dip down when you're playing your song, and they start to circle around you. It's 5 of them, and now they're just going in a big circle. And their singing of the song is now so loud. It's like it's almost too loud. It's like hurting your ears a little bit.
I stop playing my flute and start to imitate the same noises they're making as loud as I could to see if they could hear me over their loud voices.
And they begin to imitate you also.
I smile and do it and still imitate them at the same time, thinking it was a bit funny.
I'm seeing this connection going on between her and these flying creatures, and I hug her on the back of her shirt. V, is there any way you can communicate with these animals?
I say, I will try as I start playing. As I start playing my mother's my mother's song as loud as I can, as I put one of my hands up, seeing if one of them would try to touch me.
All right, give me a flute check, and your target will be a 16.
I got a 17.
All right, good. You narrate it.
As I play my flute, the things circle in closer to me as I manage to touch one and start circling around with it and think, hello, um, who are you and why are you here? I tell it, I start to get messages from it and really just communicate, understand it as I stop playing my flute and start re-imitating it.
Okay, so when you do that and you stop playing your flute and you reach up and you touch one of the tendrils as it's flying over, you feel the big gust of wind from its wings, and it almost like pushes you, and your hair's flying, and you're just like in amazement by this Jibo of this gigantic creature and your daughter touching it. And when you touch its tail and you ask it these questions, give me a animal friendship roll, and your target will be a 12.
Oh, that's not that hard. I got a 17.
Okay, so when you touch this creature and you ask it the questions, you start getting it memories of it flying through the field, and this is all happening just while the tendril is just sliding by and touching your fingers as it's flying by you, and you see its family, and you see the lands, and you see it flying around this mountains and stuff and through the clouds, and you see the three brothers, and it's seeing all of your memories and your journey here. And then just at that moment your fingers pull away just as it says its name, and they call themselves the Crystal Skimmers. And then also when in that moment too, when you get that and the bond is broken, then you hear them like starting to talk with each other.
I put my hand down and just look around me in amazement and say, "Why, hello, Crystal Skimmers. What a nice name."
And as I'm just amazed in all of this happening and in awe, I drop to a knee and just look up at these things, and as they're swinging or flying around, is there any way you can get one of your new friends to help take us to Agra?
I follow what I was talking to as I tell him, "Is there any way me and my dad," as I point over to him, "can ride you guys to Olga's pink tree?" As I point over to the pink tree.
And when you're saying that, Fluffy jumps up, runs up your leg, and then jumps up on your shoulder, and they do seem to acknowledge what you said, and it looks like they start all like saying the same thing, and they begin to circle around, and they fly off into the sky, and they're just going higher and higher and higher.
I look at Fluffy and say, "Fluffy, what did you say to them?"
He just like chirps like, "I don't know."
I look over to my dad and shake my head, saying signaling him that it was a no.
it was worth a try, and wow, we can say we actually saw those. What did you call them?
Oh, I call them the crystal skimmers. When I was talking to, he said that that's the little kid.
Ah, yes, crystal skimmers, crystal skimmers. I've heard of those before. I've heard of something. I felt like I've heard of that before. Ah, well, we really must be on our way.
And about that
Come,
moment
come.
that you start saying that, you can now smell that food is just primed and ready to go on the fire. A few minutes, some time has passed during this, and also that itchiness too, like you're just fighting it.
Maybe let's finish the food that you cooked, and then we can be on our way. I say, looking over to our land striders.
And as you're going back, you can see the skimmers. They haven't left. They're just flying in circles high above, just slow, big circles.
Mm. Ah, I gobble up my food. B. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make it to Agra, though it is of most important that you do.
I look at him with a weird smile on my face and say, "What do you mean? Of course we're gonna make it. We've journeyed this far."
Yes, honey. We're gonna make it.
And the camera fades, starts to pull out of the little makeshift tent and back away from your campsite, and rises up into the sky, and you see the fields around you, and it goes higher and higher into the sky, and some skimmers pass by the camera, and the camera turns up and looks at the three moons and begins to zoom into them, and then the moons change into bright light, and they turn into the three suns, and then the camera looks back down and begins to zoom down on the campsite in the morning, and you see skimmers laying on the ground in a circle around the campsite, and the camera zooms back into the top of the tent that you've made, and you guys awake to Fluffy jumping around on your chest and making chirp noises,
I
light breaking in through the holes in the tent.
I rub my eyes and say, "What is it, Fluffy?" As as I start to yawn.
He runs over by the tent entrance door and starts jumping around and spinning in circles, all excited.
I I I grab Fluffy from the ground and start slowly petting his head as I peek my head outside and say, no, and gasp.
Yep, and when you do go outside, you see all the crystal skimmers laying around you, sleeping.
I I grab my bag and put Fluffy inside there and start to wake up my dad. Wake up and look outside.
And as you're going to open the tent back up and to wake your dad up, and you see him sleeping in there, you can't help but look off in the distance, and you see the three suns again as they're rising up. And again, you have that vision. You get the burning pain in your forehead, and then you get pulled again into this vision, and you're again on top of the mountaintop with the Urskeks, and they're all standing in a circle, and they're all looking at you again, and that light is shining from your forehead. But this time you see something in the middle of them that's glowing like a purple color, but you can't see what it is. It's like in the middle of some fog and some smoke. It's like blurry looking. You can't see it.
I, I stare the at the nearest creature, the nearest creature to me, and say to it, "What is that?"
He says, he says in a very proud and very like loud voice, "The crystal of truth." And then they all say at the same time, "It is the life of Thra."
I looked at the other one to my son and said, "What's the crystal of truth? Is it with Algra or is it hidden?"
It is always here and always will be. And then all of a sudden you see the three suns behind them, and that light gets bright again. Then when you look around for them, they're gone. And then you hear a voice say, "But the darkness comes. The darkness comes." And then you see darkness coming over the suns, and it begins to pull you away from the suns again. And then Jibo, you awake during this.
I get up and move around a bit. And is everything okay, V?
You see her just standing there, holding the tent thing open with her like mouth open, and you see that bright light on her forehead again as you kind of like get a different angle, and you see her, and she's just standing there looking straight at the suns.
And as this is happening, I move to the side of her and I gently place one hand on her back, just knowing that she's probably going to lose her balance. And I'm hoping that this isn't going to be like some of the other times. And I whisper, "I'm here, V. I'm here, sweetie. It's okay. Are you okay? Can you talk to me?"
And back in that trance, V, and the darkness is starting to come again, and again you feel something pulling you out of it, and then again you hear your father's voice.
My eyes wide as I gasp and start breathing heavily and say, "Just look outside, please. There's no time to talk."
And I follow like her lead and her request, and looking at her and her eyes and her forehead, and I slowly start looking the other way, almost scared. So what am I going to see? And I look outside the other way, and oh my, these Landstriders. Oh, they're all around us.
And
V, what is this?
And you also notice the crystal skimmers too are all laying down, and as you're looking around too, you see all the animals all around, and they begin to get up and like lift over the bushes and stuff, and you see these giant creatures. And then also the main thing you saw though was her staring into those three suns, and as you're looking around again, you see the mountain in the background looming, and the clouds are just a little bit farther, and the purple lightning is still flashing tendril-like.
And look at the crystal skimmers. They've come. They've come, V.
We have to tell our Landstriders if they could go to August. We have to make sure we have something to ride back on.
I leave it to you, Animal Whisperer.
I smile at him as I go over to the Landstriders and tell them we're gonna go on the Crystal Striders. I point over to the Crystal Striders and say, "You have to follow us and go to August because we need to ride back on you."
And they all begin to get up and start like stretching their legs and moving around and stuff, and then they begin to they begin to start running towards the tree, and two of the crystal skimmers are now flying, and there's three still on the ground, and they're kind of making like low.
I poof back into the tent and start grabbing my stuff and ruffling up our belongings.
And while you're in there doing that, the wave of that sickness and those itches all hit you again. This is the worst you've felt it yet. It's on your leg, on your arm, a little bit on your back now too.
Coming from this tent would be the loudest scream as I and let that out, and I just like drop down to both knees.
I dash into the tent and say, Papa, are you okay?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. This sickness, it's taken over me.
What sickness? Tell me.
And I put my hand up to her. Show you.
And he shows you, and you see these little, dream fasting. Sorry. Okay, you dream fast, and when you dream fast, you see him. You see when he touches the arrow with the blood on it, and it gets on his finger, and then you see later on, you guys are eating, and he didn't wash his hands, and that blood gets on the food. And then you see him going to the castle, or to the wooden palace. You see him going to the meeting with the princess and talking to Melno, and then you hear them talking about the shadow fingers, and this is the blight that has been ravaging the Gelflings. And now you see your father looking at himself and seeing it for the first time. And then Jibo, while you're dream fasting, also you see her on top of a mountain with these angel-like creatures, and you see a foggy mist of purple cloud on top of this mountain, and you see her going through the clouds, and you see her looking at the sun, and then you see flashes of her seeing her mother and the sun, and then you guys come apart of the dream fast.
I look at my dad, trying not to cry, but I'm tearing up and saying, "We must hurry!" As I dash out of the little hut and climb onto one of the crystal striders.
And manning up, I start making my way. Let's go, honey. We gotta get to Aughra. She can help. I'm sure of it. And I struggle as I make it to her and trust that she'll be able to get us on these crystal skimmers.
And she goes over and starts climbing up the skimmer, and you jump on that skimmer with her. And when you touch the skimmer again, you feel the communication with this creature, and you feel the power and the muscles, and it just 1, 2 flaps up and lifts you guys off the ground as you begin to fly through the air towards the tree. And it's so much faster, so much smoother than riding the land striders. So much easier.
I'll tell my dad, hold on, as I lean to the side and say, "Come on, we gotta go faster."
And I take a little cloth like that I have, and I kind of wrap it around myself and V, and she's sitting in front of me, and I'm holding on, straddling, and I kind of give it a little knot just to settle us in so we can be in the sky and kind of like stay together and feeling the wind and the gust. And this sickness is just coming over me more and more, and I feel my eyes weakening, and I just want to take a rest holding on.
And you're holding on, and these creatures are flying faster and faster, as fast as they can go, towards this now beautiful tree that you see that you've been to before. Last time you were here, it wasn't as in bloom as it is now, and you see the light breaking through the clouds and almost illuminating the tree as you're coming up on it. Your eyes getting heavy, drowsy, and the skimmers start swooping down in, making noises, and they begin to approach.
This is it. This is it. We're here. We made it, V.
I make a
She's
little.
got to be in there.
I make a little clicking sound to tell the crystal skimmer to land.
Okay, and they do. They don't immediately land, but they slowly start to circle around the tree and get closer and closer as you go down. And then as you're flying down too, you also notice as you're turning around the tree, you also notice a big flock of all these other birds and all these other creatures that have been following you the whole time too. And as you get closer and closer to the tree, you see its giant pink leaves and its big thick branches. The tree is 3 to 4 times bigger than the biggest tree you've ever seen. You get a little bit of memories of the tree from when you were a little kid, when you came here before, and now you're getting lower and you see the big giant roots, and the crystal skimmers land on the side.
I smile at the crystal skimmer, giving him my thanks as I run off to the tree.
When the crystal river's landing and this is all happening, I unsettle the little knot that fastened that seatbelt like that I made for us, and then once she slides off, I slide off right after. Hold on, honey, wait for me. As I'm trying to catch up to her and her excitement and feeling weak. Careful.
And as you catch up and you begin to climb up this little plateau-like hill with the tree perched on top, you hear off in the distance like a sound like a drum.
I stop in my tracks and look over to the sound of the drum and say, maybe that's all, girl. As I start walking towards that direction.
Ah, that beat. Yes. That beat. Play something.
I start to play my flute that makes perfect melody with the beat, and it just sounds like a beautiful little rhythm that we're making.
And as you continue playing your flute and walking up this winding path around this tree, and you're walking under roots and flowers are growing out, and all the kind of bramble is up on the side, and little creatures are coming out to see you as you're walking by. as you get closer to the top, you begin to hear the drums louder and louder, and they are playing in unison with you also. And then you also can hear the voice of like a raspy, sounds like a raspy woman singing. And Jibo, you know this none other than the voice of Algra the Wise.
I smile and start running. And I start like peering over and moving my head from side to side to see if I could get a little glimpse of Olga and holler out. Hello, Olga. It's me, V. Do you remember me?
And when you pop up around and you do see Agra sitting, she looks like she's sitting on a chair with a little drum between her legs, and she stops playing and looks over at you, and she like tilts her head as to like try to figure out what you're saying because you're kind of like far away, and then you hear her, "Come, come."
I start to speed up, jumping over the roots of the tree, waving my hand.
And she gets up. As she's starting to get up, you see her. She's like getting up all slow and sideways, and like her back hurts, and like picking her legs up. And you see this old woman that looks like she's made of like different creatures, like part gelfling, maybe part of a boar, or maybe part of a sheep, and even parts of her arms look like they're made out of wood and tree, and some parts of her look like they're made out of earth and stuff. And she begins to come over to you, and she looks very, very tired. And she begins to talk, and she goes, Jibo, you came back just like you said you would. Yes, Vierana, I remember you. Yes, the Gelfling with no wings.
I smile at Ogre and say, I probably have so much to tell you that you would like to hear.
She goes, yes, the three sons, they told me of your coming. And she's like, come. And she looks a little more excited, but she looks still a little tired. And then as she's saying that, she looks over to you, Jibo, and you see her turn around, and she kind of like moves some of the hair off of her face here, and you can see her eye burnt away, and you can see her third eye on her forehead closed. And when she looks at you, you see her third eye just kind of open a little bit, and she goes, oh, Jibo, are you okay?
And immediately I let out this and I dropped to a knee and just kind of, I've been poisoned by the land. I don't know. There's something I have to tell you, Agra.
She goes, Agra knows everything. And then she like throws her hand up and waves to the sky, and she goes, the darkening is coming. It is foretold in the stars. The grand conjunction is upon us. And she starts hobbling over to you.
And I go from one knee where I kind of dropped and fell, and to now falling onto both my hands and just start breathing heavy, and just her pointing this out to me and me admitting that I'm just being overtaken, and now it's just so obvious. I'm just starting to succumb to this. I fear this is it for me. If there's I don't know. Come to me, V.
And when you're saying that, Fluffy jumps out of the pouch and puts his little hands up on the pouch and sticks his head out and chirps a little bit, seems concerned. And then Algra now gets to you, and she grabs you by your your vest here and lifts you up and goes, "Help me!" And then she when she says that, she pulls back, and then you see her face go, and she goes, "Shadow fingers, not good at all."
I rustle through a bag and grab one strawberry and say, "Try this. Maybe this would help a bit."
And when you pull that thornberry out, Algra lets go and then looks down at the berry and goes, "Child, where did you get that berry? Very rare thornberries." Hmm.
Hmm. I met a fellow sun reader out in the forest when we were starting our journey.
As she interrupts, you goes, "Sun reader? You saw a sun reader?
Yes, we
Wait,
did.
you said fellow?"
Yes.
And then
Well,
she doesn't even let you continue talking. She goes up and grabs your head and then pulls your hair away, and then sees the mark on your forehead, and she goes, "Aha, the sun reader. I should have known. No wings, sun reader, of course." And then she points up and she's like, "The stars are aligned, and the suns. This is prophecy." And then she begins to pull you, uh, almost forgetting about Jibo, and then begins to pull you towards what looks like to be a an oval shaped formation of roots that look like they go down into the ground.
I look I look at Olga and say, "What's that?"
He says, "Ah, the prophecy. I will show you."
I
And then
tell
she looks over at you, Jibo, too, and then kind of tilts her head, and she says, "Come, see."
And I pick up this thornberry and I try eating it.
And when you pick it up and start to eat it, Alger immediately says, "No, don't eat that. That tastes horrible. Not enough. Not enough. You need more. Come, come. Save it."
I look at Olga and say, "It's okay. I have two."
And her eyes, like her one eye, like goes googly and crazy. And she's like, "Two, child. One is so rare."
I say, "The sun reader told me you're supposed to eat them. He needs them."
"Ah, no one knows how to fix this sickness, and that won't do it. You need more. That's not enough."
I look at her and say, "I have something more powerful than a thornberry." I take one of the seed pods of that weird corruption flower and show Olga.
And again, her eyes go googly, and she seems stunned, and she goes, "Oh, the rarest flower of Thra. Where did you find this, child?"
Well, I have two of these. I put that one on my bag. When we were walking through the forest, we saw this weird big crab claw.
And then as soon as you say that, she interrupts you again. She goes, "Oh, wait, come, come!" And then you see her. She grabs you guys and pulls you over to like a big table with shells and stuff, and it's got all kinds of pots and beakers and looks like potions and animal parts hanging and flowers and stuff. And she begins to like move stuff around and look for something, and then she finds something and she pulls it out and she goes, "Ah, there it is, moon tears. You need this and mix it with that, and it will make a potion, maybe, hopefully. Wait." And then she looks at it and then turns it upside down, like looking at it with her eye, and says, "Oh, all gone. Algra has none. Sorry, Jibo."
I, I put my hand on my forehead and say, "Why would you suggest it then?"
the only thing that will help. It makes everything stronger. You'll have to get more, maybe.
Well, how do you even get them for starters?
And she says, I will show you. And she puts her hand out to Dreamfast.
I smile and put my hand on hers.
And when you go to Dreamfast, you see nothing.
I took my hand off and give her a dirty eye and say, there's nothing there.
Ah, nothing, everything, all the same, all the same. Come, come. And she grabs you by your hand again and starts to pull you towards that hole in the ground. Jibo,
I follow
leave that alone.
and listen. Augra knows best.
And then
Follow V.
and as you guys are walking with Augra to this hole, you notice Vierana that Fluffy um, jumped out at some time during this conversation, and you see him munching on a bowl of glow moss. He's just like in it, just and he looks at you and kind of like gives like a giggle, and it just keeps going and chomping.
I I run towards him and stuff him in my bag and say, Fluffy, don't do this. This is Agua the Wise's house. Where are your manners? I say as I give him the stink eye as I quickly walk over to Agua hoping that you not notice.
And she looks over and she goes, "Ah, side ticks. They love glow moss. It's okay. I have more. Come, come." And you guys begin to go down these long spiraling steps that go underneath the tree, deep, deep. And then you get into this room that has a little fire in the middle. And then all on the walls around are pictures and drawings. And she begins to walk around and tell you the story of the creation of Thra, the planet that you're on, and the Gelflings, and how she helped the Gelflings. And then she gets to this one picture and she goes, "Look, look, come, look."
I look at the I look at the pic I start looking at the picture and then look back at Agra.
And when you go over by her and she shows you, you see a picture of three suns above a mountain, and then it looks like there's little like lines going down to the mountain. And she goes, "Do you know what this is?"
I told you I look at her and say, what does this mean?
She says, "Did you see this?" And then when she's pointing at that, next to it, you see the vision of the creatures that you saw, the Ursex next to it.
I look at her and gasp and say, yes, I have seen the Orsexias.
And then she jumps back and goes, "Oh, it is true, you are Sun Reader." And then she goes to the next one and she goes, "Look, look." And then she points at the picture and you see Gelflings riding on the backs of crystal skimmers.
I wet eyes and say, we were crystal skimmers.
And then on the next picture that you see, you can't help but see it, as you see what looks like a crystal skimmer by itself flying over the peaks of mountains.
I look at her and say, well, I didn't talk to a crystal skimmer and I did see an image. And I think it was this one.
And when you say that, all of a sudden the ground begins to rumble and shake, and Alger immediately grabs the walls and like totally is over exaggerating it, like, "Oh my god," you know. And then Jibo, you are just dropped to your knees in pain right now, and these things just light up on your body as this rumble begins to fall. Dirt's falling down. The roots are shaking above you in this room. The little critters are all running into the walls.
I look at Agra and say, Agra, please, the moon tears.
I drop down to my knees and I grab my chest. V, you'll be safe here. Agra, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. You must take care of V.
I look at my dad. I look at my dad and say, "Nonsense! With Olga here, we're sure to find something."
And as you're talking, the ground shaking. Agra just seems so panicked by the ground shaking, and then you hear her like saying it not too loud, but she's like, "Oh, the conjunction, the darkening, the shaking. Oh." And then she kind of comes to as the grounds to stop shaking a little bit, and then she goes, "Go, you must to the pointy mountains. That's where the moon tears are. You must go quickly."
I looked at
She
her.
looks over at Jibo.
I looked over and I looked over to her and said, "Why don't you come with us? We worked so hard to get here, and you're making us leave."
She says, "No, Olga can go. I'm too weak, too tired. I will make the potion. Go." And she grabs Jibo and grabs you by the hand and lifts you up again. "Come, Gelfling."
And listening to Agra, I get up and remember, V, always trust Agra. She knows best. I'll follow you. Do you think you can get the crystal skimmer to take us where we need to go?
Yes, but hopefully they know what a moon tear is.
And I follow V back up the tunnel.
And you guys get to the top of the tunnel, and Augur like drags you over to like this little makeshift little couch that's grown kind of out of the side of one of the roots, and lays you down and says, "Rest, Gelfling, rest." And then she walks over back to the looks like that potion table that she was at before, and then she looks at you, Vierana, and goes, "Still here, little Gelfling? Go get moon tears." And then
I
she
looked
starts working on something, and she's like, she's ignoring you. She's just looking at stuff. No, that won't work. No, that won't work. And then you see her with the thornberry and the seed, and she puts them in some cups and stuff, and she's doing this stuff, and then she looks back at you again. "Go, Gelfling, go, hurry."
I say, I look at her surprised and say, "Alone?"
"No, you'll be with the skimmer."
Ugh.
And then she looks down at your pouch, and she says, and that thing, little sidekick.
You mean Fluffy? Oh, Fluffy, you're probably gonna take all of her glow moss with you, I guess. Don't hide it in your fur, please.
And as she put me down and laid me, I almost immediately fell asleep into a rest in this comfortable little hay-like bed and this warm blanket that she put over me. And I just succumbed to my pain and rest.
I I look back at Agra and my dad and say, "Well, wish me luck," as I snatch my bag from the table and start walking out to the skimmer.
And as you're walking away, Augur says, "No luck. Follow the sun." And then you get to the skimmer, and the skimmer goes moo moo and puts its wing down for you to get on.
I I tell the skimmer, "Look, we have to get to the point in the mountains so I can get some moon tears. You know where that is?"
He looks up at you, kind of like confused, and goes no, and then
No,
lifts you up, and then begins to lift you up on his wing.
I look at him and say, "Pointy mountains, moon tears."
And then all of a sudden, as you say that, he gets really excited and just takes off so fast, almost forgetting that you're on there. And you need to give me a dexterity check, or you fall off. Your target will be a 13.
got a 16.
All right, you go ahead and narrate it.
As he starts taking, as he's in the air, I'm just on his wings, slowly climbing up. I managed to make it onto him as I hold on tight to this giant, amazing creature, and say, "Make sure you don't accidentally fly me off."
And he kind of like levels out a little bit and goes, "Meow, meow, meow." And then they begin to take off. And when you look back down, you see the tree getting smaller and smaller. And then all the birds and all the other creatures all fly up, and they're all flying in a big formation, all with you. And you begin to fly towards the mountains, way off in the distance.
I I I peer out in front of me to see if I could spot the mountains. As I'm looking, I just feel the warmth of of the suns and just feel really happy and hope that this is not a long flight.
And you begin to fly, and then same as before, your hair's getting blown in the wind, and it feels so good. And you begin to go farther and farther over the seas, and then you can see the mountains up ahead. And when you look back over your shoulder, you see the other dark mountains way off in the distance. And you begin to fly up through the canopy of clouds, and then all of a sudden you see it above the clouds, the three beautiful pointy mountain peaks, and you also see the three suns in the distance. And then once again, when you look at these suns, you don't go into a trance this time, but you feel the burning on your forehead and you feel some movement. And then all of a sudden you see the light is like burning your eyes, but the more you peer into it, sorry, move that over there. The more you peer into it around the edges and stuff, you can see all the writing and stuff, but you just still can't quite make out what that writing is. You don't know exactly what it is. But as you're flying on these gigantic, beautiful creatures, you notice that the sun is kind of about where the middle peak is.
I I put my hand right in front of me, and say, "Middle peak."
And the skimmer responds, and then as you begin to go up through the clouds, you can feel all the clouds like pulling off of you, almost like drips of water, and you see them giving a big cloud trail behind you. And you begin to make your way closer and closer to this peak.
I I just stare at that peak, thinking, how am I even gonna get a moon tier, or even where the moon tier is?
And you fly for what feels like another 5-10 minutes. These things are so much bigger than you thought they were. And you get to the middle peak, and as you're flying around the middle peak and you're doing like big circles around it, you can't help but notice down at the base of the peak, almost to where the clouds are touching, you see what looks like a smaller version of the same tree of Algras, but this one doesn't have any leaves on it at all.
I think to myself, maybe that's where I'll find my moon tier. I look down to the big giant I'm riding, and say, "Now, do you know where I'm gonna even find a moon tier?"
It just responds confused.
I look at it and say, "Never mind."
And a few more minutes pass, and now the big creature is slowly getting slower and slower, and then finally it's down near right close to where the tree is.
I I look at the tree, squinting at it to see if there's any moon crystal, or I mean moon tier, or anything that looks close or any clues or anything.
And as you do get a little closer and you zoom in, you do see some reflecting sparkles off the tree here and there, almost like drops of dew in the morning reflecting off the sun.
I gasped and dig through my bag, seeing if there was an empty little pouch. And as I'm doing that, I found one in my bag and opened it, getting ready to collect these sparkly little things.
All right, you get your bag out, and just at that moment, the skimmer lands down really gently and puts its wing down on the ground. And as soon as you begin to get off, and you're really close now to the tree, you see behind the tree, off in the distance, flying towards you, a bunch of small black dots.
I say, this is probably what it is. As I start putting them in my bag and making sure that there was none left on the tree that I missed.
When you go over to the tree and you start picking these little droplets off the tree, they're like really really sticky, almost like sap, but they're crystal white clear, and they like when you hold them in the light, they almost absorb the light and glow. And then you're sitting there holding it and putting it in your bag, and you can only get 3 of these because they're so. The rest of them are just like thin little lines. They haven't made a drop yet. But the 3 that you do get and you put in your drop, then you look up and you see now these little dot things, black dots off in the horizon, and now they're coming closer. Now you can see they almost look like little bats flying closer and closer to you, and they're coming very quickly towards you.
I I shoved I put them back into my bag and close it so that nothing would fall out, and dash over to the crystal skimmer, and I say, "Go on, we gotta go quick."
Okay, and as you begin to run over the crystal skimmer and you're yelling at it, we got to go. All of a sudden, the crystal skimmer jumps up like it's scared, and like it immediately flies up, and you're like standing there looking up at it. And then around the side of the mountain edge, you see 4 black dog-like creatures that have little black wings on their backs, and you can hear their wings flapping, and they're making like these weird barking noises that almost sound like a cat meow at the same time. They're like yeah, yeah, and they're flying towards you really fast now. And then you can hear them, the other ones that were behind you. Now it sounds like those are really close now too.
I start waving my hands to see if the crystal skimmer could see me, and yell, "Come on, I gotta get on you."
And the crystal skimmer seems really scared of these creatures, and it looks at you, but like it wants to help you, but immediately runs back. And then you see that little pack of the dog creatures see the crystal skimmers, and it starts chasing after the crystal skimmers. And then all of a sudden, you hear behind you, really close now. The other ones are very close behind you.
I grab my knife and put it in front of me, hoping that none of them would try to attack me.
And then in that moment where you pull your knife around and you turn around to see them, you see that now they're all like almost right under the tree, and they're almost halfway to you from where the tree is. And it doesn't look like they're scared of your knife, and they're barking and flapping all weird, and they're not good at flying at all. And they're trying to fly through the branches of the tree to try to come and get you.
I put my hand on the tree and think as hard as I can. Please just wrap these creatures up in your big, strong branches.
And when you do touch that tree, at the moment you touch the tree and you're thinking this, the the eye on your forehead opens up and you can see the light reflecting on the tree in front of you, and you feel a huge burst of energy that you've never felt before, and you feel like you have so much control. Go ahead and give me a control plants, and your check will be a 10.
Oh, it's not that hard. I rolled an 18.
All right. I'm going to narrate this one.
Mhm.
So when you touch that tree, you see your hand begin to glow, and the light and tendrils of light go all through your hand, and it goes all up into the tree, and it's going under the bark, and you see the whole tree light up, and the tree begins to bloom with these with the same flowers that are on Olga's tree, and the tree just grabs all of these flying creatures, and you just hear them all crunch, and they all go, "Rah, rah, rah," and then the tree is just growing and growing, and all of a sudden they all just disappear. And then in that moment, also you look over and you hear the crystal skimmer go, "Whoa, whoa." And then you look and you see a couple of these dogs are creatures are now on the skimmer and it's trying to like bite it.
I wave my hand and say, "Come over here. I'll try my best to get them off of you."
And then when you start waving your hands like that, you notice that all of the birds that are flying also they almost move with your hands. You see them fly this way when you move your hands, and then they fly this way when you move your hands.
I look up and smirk and whisper to myself, "I have a plan." I move my hands forward to see if the birds would go towards the crystal skimmer and maybe scare the dogs off.
And they do just that. Give me a telepathy check, and your target will be a 10.
I rolled a 20.
Oh, I'll let you narrate this then.
The birds move much farther than I expected to where it's directly top of the crystal skewer, and they just start flapping their wings. A big gust of air just poofs out. They all start chirping mad chirps, and the dogs just start whimpering, and you could see like the sadness and just like the sadness and frightenedness out in their eyes, and they just um and they just get off that big gentle giant as fast as they could and just started fleeing.
And they do just that, and they whimper away, and the birds are chasing them away, and the crystal skimmer comes back over to you. And then when the crystal skimmer gets near you, um, Fluffy jumps out of your pouch, all happy, and you can see all the crumbles of the glow moss falling off of him, and he's like cheering. And then you see also the at that moment you hear the same whimpering of these creatures flying out of the tree, and you see them flying off and away, and they're all like flying crooked and falling and stuff in the air, and they fly away into the clouds, and the crystal skimmer lowers its wing right next to you.
I I I grab a piece of my clothes and wipe Fluffy's face and said, "I think you had too much glow moss for a day," as I chuckle and climb onto the crystal skimmer.
And you climb back onto the skimmer, and you guys begin to you begin to take off back towards Agra's, and you get back almost, it seems like twice as fast as you got there. And when you arrive back, Agra's sitting there waiting for you at the tree, and it looks like she's kind of like got her arms crossed and she's stomping her foot a little bit. And Jibo, you you come out of your slumber what seems like 2-3 hours later, and you're under these blankets and you are sweating profusely, and your whole body just feels itchy and rashy, and you feel very sick.
With a lot of effort, because I'm feeling so weak, I pull some of the blankets off and I look around this little lab-like hut, and I'm looking to see if there's a maybe something I can at least grab to sip on. And I'm seeing all these different bubbling potion like pots and whatnot going on, and I'm just taking in the environment.
Yeah, you see it. You see all these concoctions and potions, and you do see on that table where she was working before you passed out. It does look like a little space is cleared, and there's a little cauldron that's got some fresh stuff in it, and a couple things around, and then off to the side, you do see a big cauldron, big barrel cauldron filled with swamp water. And then as you see that past them, you also see Augur out there, and then you see a big commotion of flying creatures flying back in.
I make my way and grab myself a drink, and kind of in a weakened, dizzy state, I make my way out and walk up to Agra, and look around.
Yeah, and by the time you get to Agra, the skimmer with Vierana lands, and the wing lowers for you to get off Vierana.
I slide off and dig to my pocket and hold the moon tears high above my head like this and say, I got him.
And Olgra's got her arms crossed, and she's stomping her foot, and she looks and goes, "Little Gelfling, what took you so long?"
Well, let's just say I got attacked.
Attacked? By what? And she grabs the moon tears from you and starts walking back.
Well, I didn't get hurt, but it was like these dog-like creatures. They're pretty bad at fly, but these dog-like creatures with weird bat wings on them.
They were black?
Yeah, the wings are
Oh,
black.
Rakitas. Horrible, horrible creatures. Horrible. Rakitas, yes. Sorry that you had to see them. And then and then as she says that, she kind of ignores you, and she looks at Jibo and she goes, "Jibo, what are you doing up?"
I came to, and I didn't see V around, and I'm just so thirsty. V.
She says, "Rest, rest. You must rest. I will make the potion." And then she kind of lifts you up. She's so much stronger than you in space. She like almost picks you up off your feet and sets you back down. And then she grabs you, V, and takes you over to the potion area. And then she starts to talk to you and teach you about the potion. And as she's pouring it in, mixing it, and telling you, how this moon tears enhances the power of this potion. And as that drop is dropping and dropping very slowly out of your pouch, so slowly, and then it touches the potion with the other mixtures, and then you see a purple poof, and it just like blows up in your face, poof, and then Agra's coughing, and then she holds up to you and she says, "Here it is. This will save your father."
I look at her and say, it smells pretty good, as I scoop some of it out and put it in a glass and walk over to my dad and say, here, try this.
I lift my head up, put my hand out.
And contrary to what she said, it smells awful. It smells like the worst bog water you've ever smelled, mixed with who knows what.
And as this drink is coming to me and the smell overtakes me, I immediately give out a cough. What is this? Are you sure?
Well, just plug your nose. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's going to save you. Rather die or drink this.
And Agra cuts you off as you guys are talking, and you see her sit down in her chair all slumping. She looks very tired. Says, "Drink, Jibo, drink." And then you see her her head's like starting to nod off.
And I let my air out and close my eyes and take a sip in.
And as you're sipping that, you see you're sipping that, and Vierana, you see him drinking it, and it it doesn't look good. And you see off in the corner of your eye, you see Fluffy running, and it looks like he's running, and he's got something, and he's running away. He's running towards the hole that you were at before.
Fluffy, no, come back here, I say as I chase after him.
And you begin to chase him, and he runs down the steps and stuff, and you chase him all the way around. And then right at the moment where you get to back into the hallway where you were, or that room where you were with the prophecies on the wall, you see him run behind the little middle pillar where the fire was. And as that's happening, Jibo, you take that first sip, and this stuff tastes atrocious. It's thick, it's thorny, it's hard to swallow, it's pricking the sides of your throat.
I take that potion down and I cough and I sit up and hold my stomach and I then pull my shirt to the side and I look at my rash and my skin.
And as you do, you see, you're looking at it, and you feel this, you feel the heat and the warmth, you feel the warmth of this potion going through your body. And a little bit of time passes as you're looking at him, and you hear Algra snoring so loud, loudest snore thing you've ever heard. You almost thought it was the earthquakes again for a moment, and then you see the blackness on these shadow fingers just slowly starting to go away, almost like a powder's falling off of them, and they start to just so slowly lower.
In amazement and relief and in thanks, I just start breathing slowly in and out. And I starting to feel some of my energy come back. And I put my feet over the bed and I just sit there breathing in and out. And I call out to V.
And
V,
and
where are you?
V and V, you're downstairs, and you just saw Fluffy poke his head back around the fire, and you hear your father call, and you hear Fluffy snacking on something.
I say, Fluffy, come on, it doesn't matter. I can tell you're eating glow moss. Just I'll let you eat it. Just come with me. I say as I put my hand down, waiting for him to jump on.
And he reluctantly jumps on your hand, and looks like he finishes that little piece of glow moss before he does, giving you some attitude. And a little piece even falls off, and as it's falling, he grabs it real quick and eats it, and then jumps on your hand. And then when he jumps on your hand, you see him lit up like a little bit more than he normally is, and you realize that your eye has opened up again, and it's making the room glow, and it's getting brighter and brighter. And then Jibo, at that moment, you're calling for your daughter. You see in that tunnel a light starting to form in that tunnel, and Algra is snoring like crazy.
As my forehead is glowing, I rub it again. Still walking up the steps, making my way upstairs.
And as you begin to walk up the stairs, you can't help but notice on the wall, on the side of the wall, you never got around to it before because of the earthquake that happened, and you had to leave to go get the tear. But you see what looks like two more pictures you didn't see.
I
And Jibo, about that time, you get to the top of the stairs.
I'm walking towards her. And this light.
I turn around and walk back to two pictures I didn't see, and study them.
And just about that moment, Jibo, you arrive at the bottom of the stairs and you walk up to your daughter looking at the side of this wall with these two pictures and it being fully illuminated like daylight coming from the head of your daughter. And you see one picture that's after the picture with the pillars and stuff and the mountain, and it shows what looks like to be a female gelfling with no wings, standing there with an eye open on her head.
I mumble to myself, remind me of someone I know very well.
And I put my hand up and I rub this picture in the face, in the eye. And I look back at V. Could this be the prophecy? It must be.
And in the next picture, as you're saying that, you look over, and V, you see a picture of the three suns that you've been seeing in your visions, and you see words written around them, but you can't read these words.
I mumble to myself very quietly, almost like a vision.
And Jibo, you hear her say this, and when you follow her eyes over and you look, you can read these. You can read this. This is the ancient language that Algra taught to your kind in the very early days, and many people have forgotten this language, but you kept the art of knowing this language alive secretly, also, and with Algra.
And I slowly read this aloud as I make my eye contact from that picture to the other.
And then as you're reading it, the camera begins to fade out of the room, and it begins to go up the stairs and fade out away from the light, and it sees Algra sleeping, and it pulls away from the tree, and it's beginning to go up in the sky and looking, and it begins to turn towards the mountain where the three suns are, and the light of the three suns peering through that mountain off in the distance. And you read, in the time of the first conjunction will be born the ALL-MAUDRA, and we fade to black.